Can anyone guess where I'm at? Empty parking lot. Take a look at the weather, you can kind of guess why. Well, if you haven't figured it out, here's your answer. Come on. Springer Mountain, southern terminus of the AT 1 mile, southern terminus of the Benton Mackaye Trail, 3/4 of a mile. So Springer is across the road and up the mountain. That's where we're headed. This is the summit of Springer Mountain. This is the official, it is the official southern terminus of the Appalachian Trail. This isn't a new spot for me. I've been here, I think this is the 3rd time. I don't come here a lot because you have to hike backwards from the parking lot up to Springer and then backtrack another mile back to the parking lot to continue on the AT. The only way around that is to hike in from Mackaye Falls on the approach trail, which is roughly 8 miles to get here, and then you can hike straight through. So what I did there was most shelters, and well, I know all shelters have a little sign-in or check-in book, and it's kind of cool just to fill them out and read who's been here before, and then you can always come back later in the year and check. But it's also a good way, if someone knows you're in the area and you sign that, and then you don't show up to an area where you're supposed to go, they can come and check these books and they can go, okay, well, he was here, so we know he's got to be at least between this area and that area. So I always try to fill them out every time. The plan today is about a 1/4 mile from here going back south, there is the southern terminus for the Benton Mackaye Trail, or Benton Mackaye, however you want to say it. I'm gonna cruise back down to that. I'm gonna jump on the BMT. I'm gonna hike the BMT all the way to Three Forks. I'm gonna go through Three Forks and head up to Long Creek Falls. It should be flowing really well with the flow right now. I'm gonna backtrack back to Three Forks, and I'm gonna jump on the AT and hike the AT back up to Springer parking lot. I should be doing that first thing in the morning. The plan is to either camp at Three Forks tonight or camp at Stover Creek Shelter. They're about a mile from each other, or a mile and a half, give or take, and either or, it still leaves me a pretty short hike out in the morning, which is okay. I should be out of here by noon tomorrow. This is Springer Mountain Shelter. 3-sided. I believe it's 2 stories. Yep. So there's a loft up there. Got these pegs. Some of them are to keep the boards together, but people utilize them to hang their packs off of. There was, as you've seen in the parking lot, there was absolutely nobody at the parking area. I did, however, pass Ron from Ron's Appalachian Trail and Shuttle on Big Creek Road when I was coming in, and I have passed 2 through hikers going northbound from Amakaye, both within probably half a mile of each other. So they're going to be going on down the AT. Like I said, I'm going to jump on the BMT, so I probably won't cross paths with those guys again. There's those diamond blazes I've been missing. These look nice and fresh too. Springer Mountain is also the home of the Benton Mackaye Trail, Benton Mackaye, like I mentioned earlier, and that's what we're here for. This is a more rugged, more outback feeling type of trail. There's no shelters on this trail. It's all tent camping or hammock camping or bring your own gear. Can't shelter hop. There is one shelter. It's on the Citizen Log Company property, about 50 miles from here. We're not even gonna have to called Owen Vista, which is this way. BMT goes that way. The Vista side trail's this way. We're gonna cruise over here first, check out the Vista, and then we'll head down across the road, and we should be on our way to Three Forks. So after the rain moved through, as you can see, there's not a cloud in the sky really. I expected to drop off pretty chilly tonight. It'll be fine. I forgot how awesome Owens Vista is. I think that's my second time ever going there. The first time I went there must have been early summer or late summer into the fall, because I actually couldn't get that close and see the view that well. There was a yellow jacket nest in the ground and I didn't feel like getting stung. But I was checking it out when I was back there. There's some trees that are perfectly placed for some hammock camping. It could be, you would go to bed seeing the mountains and literally wake up seeing the mountains. Probably, I think that would be a sunrise location, so that's definitely getting marked down on things to do in the near future. The sign, well, it's a brand new fresh sign back there. You can almost still see it. That sign said that we are 0.3 miles from here to Owens Vista. So you could literally come park right here on the side of the road or over here in this little side path. I think there's a camping spot right up there. Park here, hike up 0.3 miles, would take you 10 minutes. Set up your hammock, camp overnight, and then get up in the morning for the sunrise and hike out. It would literally be a 12-hour hiking trip with probably one of the best views around. So definitely on the bucket list. Kiosk, the map on the kiosk says from here to Three Forks is 6.1 miles. So got our work cut out for us to hit Three Forks before nightfall. It's 1 o'clock. 5 o'clock would put us at 8 miles if we're doing 2 miles per hour. So maybe we'll hit Three Forks around 3:30. and I can jump down to the waterfall and then come back. And I'm gonna guess it's probably gonna be right around dark by that time, so we'll probably start figuring something out for camp. Remember to make yourself stay hydrated. Even in the winter time, you can get super dehydrated and not even realize it. So I know there's going to be plenty of water for the rest of this hike, especially once we get down around Three Forks and Long Creek. I'll be beside water the whole time. But this was here. It was easy access. So me and Micah both came down, resupplying the water. I started the hike with a 20-ounce bottle with an electrolyte additive. So I should be good for the rest of the day, but just to make sure, I'm gonna drink probably the rest of this, fill this up, we'll be on our way. Well, this is something that I had forgotten about and not really accounted for. So it looks like we might be getting our feet wet. Someone has made a makeshift bridge, but without a stick, which I also didn't bring this trip. Oof. This is already not going to turn out too good for me. I brought extra socks, but the drier that I can keep my feet, the better. And there it went. Completely soaked. Now they're both completely soaked. Well, I guess the good thing about it is I have the entire rest of the day to walk them dry. Well, we have made the first trail intersection with the AT. Some pretty cool camp spots. So the AT goes back that way to the parking lot, not very far. And then it goes that way down to Three Forks. Not far from here, right around this bend, is Stover Creek and Stover Creek Shelter. All right, I'm gonna tell you guys a quick story since we're on this particular part of this trail. So like 12 or 13 years ago, whatever it was, I was introduced to hiking from a coworker. And that coworker was like, hey man, go get you some gear, buy you a pack, get a cooker. And he hooked me up with all the information I needed to know for all this gear that I needed. He said, if you want to do an easy hike, go to Springer Mountain, park at the parking lot, and hike down to Three Forks. That'd be a perfect first hike for you. I was like, all right. Well, I went to Dick's Sporting Goods and I bought a Field and Stream, like 80-liter backpack. you know, super heavy, like 4.5, probably even close to 5 pounds. Bought some crazy, like, big heavy burner for our cook stove. Bought a 2-person MSR or MSI outdoors nesting set with pots and bowls, and didn't bother buying any kind of wool socks or any kind of proper shoes. We bought some cheap trekking poles. We was packing ramen noodles, packed like a heavy ass 5-pound 2-person tent from Walmart. And my wife ended up going with me. Now mind you, we had 1 pack, we had 1 cooker, we had, you know, the 1 tent. I don't even remember what we did for sleeping bags. I want to think maybe we brought like a quilt or something from home. So, and we buy all this gear and we're like, yeah man, we're hikers, this is gonna be great. So we come up to Springer, park at Springer, and we had over the course of like a few weeks to a month or 2 months or something like this, I've been looking at the map and trying to decide what exactly I wanted to do. If I wanted to park a car at a takeout, drive back to the put-in, whatever. And so what we ended up coming up with was, with my days off of work and the days off that my wife could get, we decided that we were gonna hike from Springer to Highway 60 on the BMT. Just past Toonie Mountain. So we drive up here to Springer, and we talked to her parents before we left, and her parents live up in the Blue Ridge area, so they were like, yeah, we'll come get you off of Highway 60. Drove up to Springer, parked at Springer, left Springer. It was like in the middle of the day, and we made it to Three Forks on the BMT. We hiked through this specific area, and down here in a little bit we'll get to a point where you're kind of hiking around the mountain and the valleys below you. And when we came through, there was a bunch of ferns there, so we called it Fern Valley. But we ended up making it down to Three Forks, like right at dark. So we set up camp, and we ended up camping there, right on the side of the Forest Service Road, basically. It was like the Forest Service Road, Noon Tutla, and then the camp spot. Get up the next morning, and we start hiking. And about 2-3 hours in, we're just, both of us are miserable, we're beat. The pack probably weighs 50-60 pounds. I'm carrying it for a little while, then she takes it and carries it for a little while, then I take it back and carry it for a little while more. At one point it starts raining, and we had accounted for this, so we had bought like a couple of $3 ponchos. And so we get these ponchos out, and we're wearing these ponchos, like a bunch of balloons floating through the woods, with all these bright colored ponchos that weren't even really doing anything. And so we end up making it to the Toccoa River Swinging Bridge, which is 3 miles shy of Highway 60. And it's a pretty good climb out of the bridge, from the bridge up over Toonie Mountain and then back down to Highway 60. And so when we got to the swinging bridge, we stopped. It was still early evening. We stopped, and you know, we weren't really eating anything that was giving our body fuel like we needed. So I cooked up like 2 or 3 packs of ramen noodles and just scarfed down these ramen noodles because I was just starving. And so I think she ate too. We decided that we're gonna make the climb over Toonie and out to Highway 60 that evening. She didn't want to stay again. We were exhausted, we were miserable, blisters all over our feet from not wearing the proper socks, proper shoes. And then we were both extremely hungry, even after eating. So we hiked on out to Highway 60. Her mom came and got us, and then we went straight to Wendy's and got like a Baconator or something, and like picked out on some of the worst possible fast food that you could probably get, but it was what we needed. It was an experience that I'll never forget. It was my first time ever hiking, and I did it with my wife. Wouldn't want to do it with anybody else. She suffered through it just like I did. With that being said, as you can see, 12 years later, and who knows, 2,000 miles under my feet of hiking all over the place, I'm still at it. Her, on the other hand, I don't think that her and I have done an overnight hiking trip since that trip. We have done overnight camping for sure. We have done a lot of day hiking together, but I don't think I've gotten her back out on the trail for an overnight or even a 2-night trip. I have a lot better gear now. I know what I'm doing. She has actually hiking shoes and wool socks for herself. I have a pack that will fit her. I have spare sleeping bags, so maybe that's a goal that I need to set before spring, is to get her back out here on the trail for an overnight. Probably do her good. But yeah, I just figured since I was on this particular stretch of trail where all that went down, it was making me think of it, and I figured it would be a good time to tell you guys a story. Hope you enjoyed it. So this is the valley that I was telling you guys about earlier in the story. In the spring, summer, and fall, everything, as far as you can see, is green, covered with wild fern. It's actually quite beautiful. I can hear the river down there, I'm pretty sure. Yeah, I can see the Forest Service Road, so I think we've got to skirt on around this ridge here. We'll drop back off and connect with the AT, and then we will cross one of the most photographed spots. Be careful with what I said there. Not the most, but one of the most photographed spots on the AT. Stay tuned, I'll show you when we get there. And we have made it out onto the AT, and this is officially Three Forks. We call it Three Forks because there's 3 creeks that merge right here to form one that they call the Noontutla. The Noontutla, south of this bridge that we're fixing to cross, has some of the most beautiful fishing probably in the state of Georgia, maybe aside from the Conasauga. I'm sure there's fishing north of here too. Never done any fishing north. Everything I've done has always been south. So now that we're on the bridge, looking north of here, I'm about to show you guys, looking north up the river, this is one of the most photographed areas on the whole AT. I don't know if it still is, but a couple years ago it was. I've actually got a picture of this framed and hanging on my wall at my house. So we're gonna cross the road now, and from this point up along the creek here, we've got about a mile to get to Long Creek Falls. I don't think it's going to be anything spectacular after seeing how clear the water's running up here right now. I don't think the river or the waterfall will be up much, but we're in the area, so it's worth taking a look at. Here's the trail junction. Long Creek Falls this way, BMT there, and AT there. There goes the Hawk Mountain Shelter. That goes to Little John Dick Mountain first, then Big John Dick Mountain with the heli fields, and of course the falls. So this is what we came for. We're gonna take this little short hike right up here. Here we are, Long Creek Falls. And this thing is actually flowing quite a bit more than what I expected. Definitely more than the last time I was here a couple years ago. flowing really well. All right, I'm gonna take a break for about 20 minutes. I'm gonna eat a power bar and a pack of M&Ms, and then we're gonna hightail it back to try to make Stover Creek shelter before nightfall. Back to the road now. Got a total of 9.7 miles. We're gonna cross the road and head for Stover Creek. It's like 4:20, so we should be able to make it to Stover Creek in time. I know this is gonna sound silly, but we're about to cross a bridge. And when we cross this bridge, we're gonna be in one of my favorite places I've ever hiked. And we're only probably 3 miles from the summit of Springer, right at the start of the AT. So let me show you. So on this side of the mountain, all these trees are hemlocks, and it is the last, I think it's the last stand. It's definitely the biggest stand left in the state of Georgia, and if I'm not mistaken, maybe even the southeast. I'd have to brush up on my history a little bit. At one point I didn't know for sure, but it's a long ways up through here. And the reason why it's the only stand left is because they, in the 1920s and 1930s, they just logged them all out. I mean, pretty much every piece of forest around was logged at some point. Why this stretch of forest particularly was left, I don't know. I don't know if anybody knows, but it is it's a pretty cool piece to walk through. This is like my 5th, 6th, 7th time, something like that, walking through here now, and it's always beautiful every time. It almost feels enchanted. Like it reminds me of being up on Mount Mitchell when we hiked Mount Mitchell, and we were way high up in elevation, and you start getting into the high alpine stuff. Or even back when we were on the Art Lobe back in October, we experienced the same thing. It's just a pretty cool feeling to walk through stuff like that. This is I don't know how you want to look at it, a good sign or a bad sign. It's going to get below freezing tonight. The rhododendrons are turning their leaves down. That means it's going to get below 32. Good sign because we wanted to test the sleeping bag and the gear. Bad sign because it's obviously going to be below 32. We should be rolling up on Stover Creek shelter soon. From Three Forks to Springer Mountain was 4.1 miles. So I think that's including up to the summit. So 3.1 miles to the parking lot. If I'm not mistaken, Stover Creek is about halfway in between, so it should be 1.5 miles. We're probably already half to 3/4 of a mile in. When we get to the shelter, I'll get back with you guys. So we ended up making it to Stover Creek shelter last night. Just down in the valley down there, Stover Creek. It's about 1.5 miles from Three Forks. Same shelter as before, 3-sided, 2-story. Also has the bear box, which I mentioned yesterday was something that's kind of new they're doing. Still have the bear cables. There's bear cables there and bear cables over there. There's also a privy down there. It got down in the mid-30s last night. It didn't get down to freezing, I don't think. My water didn't freeze overnight, so I don't think it got down that cold, but stayed in the hammock inside the shelter. That was kind of nice. It was able to block most of the wind. First time having Lagatha with me while hammock camping. She slept on the floor on my pad, and I used my raincoat as kind of a cover for her. Of course, that lasted only a little bit. She was up moving around and stuff. But Got packed up this morning, breakfast ate, and we've got about a 1.5 mile hike back to Springer parking lot, and that'll be it for this trip. So stay tuned, and we'll get on trail here. All right, here we are, back on trail, and so I didn't film last night, and I was kind of being skeptical on what I should film in that last clip. I camped with a guy named Keith last night. He was a northbound thru hiker, really awesome dude. He's never done any kind of hiking as far as extended periods, so he was way overpacked. He was way too heavy, still learning. He ended up giving me a couple pieces of gear. He gave me a really nice poncho and an Nalgene bottle and some other stuff. I told him I'd take it just to get the weight off his hands. He's waiting to get to Nils Gap. He's gonna do a shakedown and send some stuff home before he starts heading north towards the Smokies. Really cool dude though. Him and I talked with him more about things that I probably wouldn't talk with most people about, which was kind of interesting, but I don't know, that's neither here nor there. But anyways, I was trying to be respectful and not film him or anything that was going on, because he's there for the experience. He doesn't have social media, none of that. So I asked him this morning if I could record, and he said, yeah, sure, that's fine. But I still tried to kind of keep him out of the frame, just to be respectful. So that's the reason why I was kind of all over the place and not really showing the shelter all that much this morning. Okay, before we finish out the hike, here's the scoop on what was actually going on for this hike. About 5 months ago, I was invited to go on a 7-day hike from Dix Creek Gap, North Georgia to Fontana, roughly 100 miles, which means that in the allotted time, we need to travel at a minimum 14 miles per day. But as an average, probably 15, 16, maybe even 17 miles per day is what I'm guessing we're looking at. With that being said, my normal hiking setup, which is my external frame, my old big sleeping bag, my old cooker, all these things that I've always used for the last 10 years, is going to be kind of unmanageable, I guess would be the word, for this hike. We're going to be carrying 7 days worth of food, plus an external frame, heavy sleeping bag. I don't know, I'm looking at like 60, 65 pounds of gear. It's doable. I've done it before, and there will probably be a time in the future where I do it again. But over the last 10 or 12 years of hiking, I've kind of learned a few things. The last 5 years, I've been super hard-headed about upgrading to ultralight gear. Hunter has been trying to get me on the ultralight bandwagon for 3 years himself. I knew about ultralight before that. And like I said, I'm just kind of hard-headed about it. I really, when I look back to the 60s and 70s and I see photos of people hiking the AT in the 60s and 70s, they did it with external frames, blue jean shorts that used to be pants that were cut off with scissors, no shirt, regular high ankle Reebok shoes, and they sent it hard. I've been hiking that way for the past 10 years. To me, that's hiking. What I will say though is, over the course of the last year, I have been picking up ultralight gear. I've been using it, been hiking with it here and there for day hikes, done 1 or 2 overnights, and it definitely makes a difference in optimizing your performance. Usually I may only hike 1 mile to 1.5 miles in an hour, With an ultralight setup, I'm getting 2 to 2.5 miles per hour. So I'm speeding up my time a little bit. I'm giving my back a break. And just to kind of put out there the gear that I'm currently using. This is a Hopperlot bag. This bag, technically I don't own the bag. It is my younger brother's bag. This is a first generation bag. It was bought in 2014. He bought it in the middle of the year with the intentions of using it for a through hike in 2015. 2015 rolled around and he started the through hike, made it to just shy of the state line from Georgia to Tennessee, got hurt, came off the trail. I was talking to him about how the bag performed, and he wasn't happy with it. He was carrying around 30, 31 pounds. These Hopperlots aren't designed to carry 30, 31 pounds. About 25 pounds is the max for comfort and for bag reliability. You start carrying 30 pounds and you start running the risk of the shoulder straps coming unsewn from the bag itself. So he decided to go buy an Osprey. I'm pretty sure it was an Atmos 70 liter, what he bought. I'm not exactly sure. He watches the video, so he'll probably chime in at some point in the comments, but basically after he bought that bag, it fit him well, it worked for what he wanted. He had the Hopperlot and he was like, you know, here man, use the bag. I'm probably not going to use it anymore. At least it'll get used with you using it. And so I've had the bag in my possession for a while, just kind of sitting around in my attic with my other gear. Haven't done a whole lot of messing with it. So back around Thanksgiving, on Black Friday, I just happened to go into an academy. They had their sleeping bags on sale. So I bought a North Face 20 degree bag that is usually $180 for like 80 bucks. I got it for $100 off. It's not considered an ultralight bag, but compared to my old bag that I was using, so my old bag was the middle bag of the military sleep system that I bought used off of eBay like 10 years ago. And that bag has been phenomenal. It's worked exactly how I wanted it to for over the last 10 years. But it was huge, it was heavy, it weighed a little over 4 pounds, took up over half my pack to pack it in there. So the new North Face bag is less than 2 pounds, and I can put it into a dry bag. So currently I have it stuffed in a Sea to Summit 30 liter dry bag. If I got a compression bag, I could probably make it smaller and take up less space, but coming from what I've had to this, it's almost like it's ultralight. I upgraded. Before I was just using a shoddy 1 or 2 man cheap tent from Walmart, like 3 to 4 pounds. If I wasn't using that, I was just using a tarp strung up on a line. I finally made the jump and bought an ultralight hammock. It only weighs a couple ounces, packs down smaller than the pack of cigarettes. I bought a underquilt. Now the underquilt I could have splurged a little bit more on and got an actual ultralight, spent a lot more money, and it probably would have helped me more for the quest that I'm on as far as packability and weight, but I just bought what I got and it actually works really well. Bought a so it was supposed to be an ultralight hammock tarp. It is light, but it's not ultralight. It actually ended up being a lot bigger than what I was supposed to get, which isn't a huge deal. I will still use it. I actually like the size of it, but I could save more space and weight if I switched up tarps again. So with all that being said, my base weight, my cooker. So I've always used a traditional pocket rocket style the shoes on top of a gas canister, and then carried a gas canister with me always since day one of hiking. But I recently bought 2 Esbit titanium ultralight stoves that are used with solid fuel tabs. So I have used these stoves just on day hikes and around the house, and I was really hoping to test one out overnight tonight, but I ordered fuel tabs that didn't get here in time. With all that being said, the base weight for this pack in basic gear, which would have been the pack, sleeping bag, cooker, mind you, I'm using a canister and a pocket rocket cooker, a titanium cup, and hammock, underquilt, and what was it? Hammock, underquilt, and tarp. Pack weight, base weight was 9.8 pounds. The night before I was getting ready to come hiking, I added food for the day, breakfast for this morning, and a 20 ounce bottle of water and a water purifier. And my pack weight moved up to 13.8 pounds. So I was super stoked about that. But then I decided to bring along the dog. So I needed to pack her some dog food. And then it was pouring rain yesterday morning when I was getting ready to leave. So I added another pair of socks and my flip-flops so that when I got to camp, I could pull my shoes off. I would have camp shoes, and then I would have a dry pair of socks to put on for bed. And that moved my weight up to about 19 pounds, still sub 20 pounds. The whole idea of this trip was to come out, test the weight and test the gear, the new sleeping bag, in combination with the underquilt and tarp and all, to make sure that it's adequate enough for a trip through the outskirts of the Smoky Mountains in mid-February. So the temperature got down to 30 degrees this morning, so it was chilly. I never got cold in my hammock and in my sleeping bag. Occasionally I would get a cold spot and I would have to move, but it was because of the way I had my hammock strung. I actually strung it inside the shelter, so it wasn't as taut as it should have been. So occasionally the foot box would hang off the side of the hammock outside of the underquilt and it would get cold. I would pull it back in and it would take a little bit to get warm again, but not a deal breaker. I really should have stayed outside of the shelter and put my hammock in the trees with the tarp to make sure it was going to work in conjunction that way. But I used this same setup except for a different sleeping bag when I hiked the Art Loeb Trail, and it worked flawlessly. So I'm not really hugely concerned with that. Mainly I was just wanting to test the new 20 degree bag. I think that I may have to carry a bag liner if the temperatures are going to be extremely cold, which could be possible. I'm just going to have to watch when that trip comes around in February to see what the temperatures are looking like. If the temps aren't going to be lower than 30 degrees or 25 degrees, I'll just send it with a sleeping bag and a jacket and a long pair of pants. I'll be fine. I always have been. If it's going to be below 20 degrees, I may use my other sleeping bag or throw a bag liner in. I have a Ruby bag liner. I may throw that in and use it. Overall, I'm super satisfied with the setup I have. Over the course of the next few months, I will probably be changing it. I will probably try to get a more ultralight underquilt, and I will probably be trying to get, and I'll have the fuel tabs by then, so I'll be able to use fuel tabs in my titanium stove. I won't have my large cook pot. All I'll have is the titanium stove, fuel tabs, and a titanium cup. So that right there, between the between dropping some weight on the ultralight underquilt and then switching out the cookers to the ultralight titanium, that will probably drop 1.5 to 2 pounds. Then aside from that, I don't know if there's really much more I could do other than buy an outright ultralight sleeping bag, which I'm not trying to spend $700-800. Otherwise I'd buy a Stone Glacier, but maybe in the near future, if I decide that I'm going to start hiking a lot more again, it might be something I consider for the fall. You know, if I could get my weight, my base weight down to about 6 pounds, add food for 4 days, and be under 15 pounds, that would be cool. I could make a lot of miles that way. I would just have to utilize food drops to keep my food at 4 days. You start carrying more than 4 days of food and you're getting into a lot of extra weight on day 1 and day 2, possibly even day 3. By day 4, you've dropped most of the weight of the food and you're back down to a manageable weight. But the only way to really get around that is to only carry 4 days worth of food. So that's it in a nutshell. That's what I came out here for, and that's what I wanted to test, and I wasn't disappointed. So we should be coming up on this other BMT crossing soon, and then it's just a short hike to the trail parking lot. So I'll catch up with you guys in a little bit. And we have made it back to the Springer Mountain parking lot. There's the RAV4. So that's really going to be it for this episode. It's kind of a wrap. I tried to bring you guys along for every little piece, other than when we were at the shelter last night and this morning. I only didn't do that out of respect. Like I said, guys, that's going to be it for this one, and we will catch you on the next one.